Hey everybody, Jabman025 here. Today I'm taking a look at one of my older master grades, the GP02A Physalis from the series Gundam 0083 Stardust Memory. Had a request to do this review. I'm happy to take requests from my older kits, so let's have a look and see what we got with this big master grade. Speaking of big, here he is. Very big, wide, bulky Gundam. And evil Gundam, as you can see. Gray, looks bad, looks mean. You could tell this was going to be the villain the first thing you saw it. You get these big old huge thrusters with these two engines here which pivot on the same part. So you move one, you move the other. And they barely hold up. You can see those yellow parts there are stickers which don't stick very well. I had to use double-sided tape on those. And you have a third thruster that is independent of the other two. Now this holds up alright for a while, but over time it slowly goes down. The reason there being is this is only held up by one plug, so that big huge shoulder is supported just by that. So it's not going to hold up for very long. It'll hold up just long enough to take a picture. How's that? You get the back half of the bazooka on the backpack. And that holds up just fine. And you get very wide and big feet and armored legs. It says a lot of armor on it because this is a nuke-firing Gundam. You can see height-wise, it's only a little bit bigger than the RX-78, but width-wise, it's almost double. It is a very wide Gundam. You can get it this much bend out of the knees, but both feet will be firmly planted at all times on this kit, and pretty much straight at all times to boot. The shoulders go just about anywhere you want. That's kind of nice. Elbows, big, huge bend. Shoulders are real nice. You can move them out. The hands are standard 3-1 and then thumb, and we come into some problems a little later with that. Head you get some decent posability out of. You can't look too far to the left and right because there's some bumpers on each side which block it up. Cockpit opens, so you can see Anavel Gato in there. You do have a fair bit of panel lining to do on this kit. Not a ton, but you got some. No real painting to do unless you want to replace those yellow parts that are stickers with paint, but no immediate painting needs. They do have some nice decals, even if you don't get a lot. You get the 02, some warning labels, another 02 on the backpack. Nice decals, but nothing over the top great. Accessories, 2 green beam saber blades, very Luke Skywalker-ish. And the handles are stored here in the waist. They're a little tough to get in and out, but that's kind of good because you don't want them falling out. But they're a nice tight fit. And the Gundam can hold the beam saber, no problems. Unfortunately, it's the only thing it can hold with no problems. You get this gigantic shield, by far the biggest shield of any Gundam ever. It's absolutely massive. And if some of you may remember, I did a video about the shield, about having those vents fall off. I suggest you just glue them all in, save yourself the aggravation. And the bazooka for this kit, the nuclear bazooka, is stored in here as well. And it hooks in just fine. Those clamps at the top and the bottom hook it into place, so there's no problems there. Or at least there are no problems. Actually holding this thing is a whole other issue. You can see it fits in there just fine. There's no real issues there. But holding it like this is virtually impossible. It is just too heavy and too big, and cannot be held up by this arm, and more specifically this hand. The 3-1 and the thumb hand just can't pull this off. In fact, with the bazooka, it's not happening no matter what hand you got. You can see it's holding it just barely without the bazooka, but one little tap, and yeah, there she goes. You breathe on this shield, it's going down. As for the bazooka itself, it's not really being held at all. The backpack flips the back half of the bazooka up, and the front half screws into place and then locks into place once you got it in there. And you see, it's not really holding it except by the backpack, and there's no real issues here. You have a little scope with a clear piece that comes out so the Gundam can look through it. And it holds that up just fine. It also gives you a very tiny nuclear warhead. That's right, your own tiny nuclear warhead. Just what you needed. Now the problem is trying to make this thing look like it's holding it. It doesn't really line up perfectly arm length wise. You get a decent bend out of the wrist to make it kind of look that way, but it's far from perfect. So, how am I going to get this thing to hold this gigantic shield? Now, there's a couple ways I know of doing this. First is take the standard 3-1 and then thumb hand and just glue it shut around the shield itself. Now, this takes away one hand because it's forever locked in the shield. But it is a permanent fix, sort of. Even if you do that, there are still some flaws. The other option is to take another hand off another Gundam, which I do, in this case a clamp hand, and clamp it around the shield and hold it that way. But even that has issues because the clamp will often pop off the shield or the wrist will give way. And if you're very careful and use the glue hand or the other hand technique, you can see it's just still barely holding on. The wrist is at full stretch, it's resting against the foot, and it's not even at a completely vertical, so this thing is never getting off the ground no matter what you do. And pretty much you're stuck with this pose here. If you're gonna have this Gundam, it's a one pose kit. Final thoughts on this kit. As you've probably already guessed, I am not giving this kit a thumbs up. There are just too many flaws that pile up on this kit. If the GP01 Gundam is good for its time, the GP02 is bad for any time. There are just a lot of flaws with this kit. The only thing this kit has got going for it is it looks different than any other Gundam. It's big, it's massive, it's got a monstrous bazooka, a huge shield. It does look nice, but realize that's all you're ever going to do with it. It's going to sit there in one pose and look like that. You'll probably get it in one pose and never touch it again. So keep that in mind. Well, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. Hope you found it informative. If you got any questions, ask them. I'll answer them as best I can. Please leave a comment. You guys know I love reading them. And I'll see you next time with the next review. Got another master grade I'm working on, so stay tuned for that. See you next time, guys. Oh, and one more thing. Let me get this straight. These people left a weapon of mass destruction with the keys in the ignition, fully armed with a nuclear warhead, and they're not even guarding it. How did we lose to these people? Alright, who am I fighting? Oh, come on! You've got to be kidding me!